So, James, we are following everything connected to the Skripal case. Of course, the odd appearance of the suspect assassin. So, what do you think? Why in the first hand it happened?
There are several reasons. Let's understand at the beginning that when he was released as part of this exchange, Dmitry Medvedev was president. And it does appear that Putin was not happy about it. He gave a very irritable press conference shortly after, in which he said not for the first time, traders will meet with a sticky end, a bad end. But the main reason is that several British governments over many years had inadvertently been projecting an image of weakness to Russia. This is not the first time a Russian citizen has been attacked in mysterious circumstances in the UK. The Russian embassy in London published last year a list of 51 Russian citizens residing in Britain whose return, extradition, Russia had sought, and this was denied. The Russian conclusion to this is very obvious, that the UK state policy is to provide a refuge for opponents and traitors. A number of these people since have died under mysterious circumstances, and there is no sign of any British response or even any serious investigation. So naturally, this starts to make them feel that it's a permissive environment to act again. On top of that, in 2010, we had a major defense review, which greatly diminished our military capability. And whatever the merits of it, the Russian conclusion and the General Staff conclusion, and hence the GRU conclusion, was Britain is taking itself out of the great power game. So there was every expectation that this could be done successfully without any serious response. And there is another minor, very interesting element. Skripal was released through an interstate agreement with Russia, because the UK takes agreements seriously. We did not perceive he was in danger, so he had no security protection, which made it easier for them to do this. Unlike some people, who are high priority targets for them, who are well protected and well secluded. So that, as ever, there's an assortment of reasons why they went after him.
And we see that international allies of the UK are supportive and take this case seriously. Is it because the UK is an important ally, or they really taking seriously this evidence and how the whole Russian activity is seen, and particularly this attack?
It was both. I mean, even before we knew what we know now, a very full report was prepared for those we call the Five Eyes, our closest allies: United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. It's us, the Five Eyes. Putting a lot of very sensitive information. The European Union received a redacted, therefore a much abridged version of this. The only reason to abridge it is because there is far more sensitive information in the Five Eyes report. The problem is, and this is a problem we have had in the information sphere, it is not possible, it's certainly very difficult to reveal your evidence about information that an antagonist is trying to conceal without revealing knowledge about your sources and your methods. And you cannot you cannot reveal these things to an adversary. These are covert activities on all sides. So we have not been in a position to publicize all the hard evidence we have. Now, we have started to publicize more and more, as you know. The passports have been tracked, the bogus character of these passports has been completely exposed to everyone's satisfaction. We now published the identity of at least one of the two people, the real identity and the background. But before any of this information is revealed, there has to be very careful examination as to whether we are accidentally revealing something we shouldn't do. Very simple.
How do you explain the whole, say, performance around that case, the appearance of those two suspects on the RT, but later also the fact that we found out that Bashirov is Chipiga and
Yes.
he is the GRU officer? What does it mean? How we should read it?
Well,
And also his participation in the war in Donbass.
I think one has to conclude, not for the first time, the Russians on the one hand are the Russian services and the state. Very professional, very resourceful, very determined, but can also at the same time be spectacularly clumsy and incompetent. And I would put it in the following way. I think we have seen many demonstrations that, particularly under Putin, the Kremlin is very good at unbalancing and surprising its opponents. But when they are surprised, they do not react in a common professional manner because they're not used to it. If you return to what I said a moment ago about the image of weakness we projected, I think they were very surprised by our reaction. They were surprised by a lot of demonstrations of just how professional our police work was, how professional our counterintelligence work was, how the fact that we saved the lives of these people, that it was very easy in our system for the experts of the Portendown Chemical Research Laboratory to work with the doctors in the hospital, for the police to be included, for the local authorities to be included. Russia doesn't work like this. Russia is all vertical. The UK's competence is horizontal. People from different institutions talking to one another, exchanging information quickly and on the basis of trust. This is something Russians don't understand. I think it unbalanced them. And so they simply started overloading all their channels of disinformation. They just put more disinformation in them and they started overloading them and made themselves appear completely ridiculous. And the climax of this was this interview with Simonyan.
And what can we expect from the international partners, security, law enforcement, anybody knowing already this information, maybe the government of UK and also allies? And in particular, why we're interested that the fact that, for instance, the same people were participated in the military campaign in the Donbass, what impact it could have in the general thinking, also in the Western relations towards Russia, and also in the context of the war in Ukraine, as we see that they are all the same people, it's not totally different and separated.
Before the events of 2014, sadly, even after the Russia-Georgia war, there was a dominant paradigm, a dominant model, image of Russia and the West, that Russia was a difficult and estranged partner. The real challenge has been to change this paradigm and get people to understand that Russia is an opponent, that it is an adversary. I will not use the term enemy. На русском я бы сказал противник, а не враг. And some people have made this mental shift, and some have not. Even inside the UK, there has been, even inside official circles, expert circles, certain differences of opinion. After the events of 2014 in Crimea, this was a major shift. And more people, the consensus really shifted to understanding Russia is a serious, long-term adversary whose fundamental interests are in conflict with many of our fundamental interests, particularly in Europe. After Skripal, there was even a further shift. And so a lot of skeptics who still felt the scope for cooperation, we can, through accommodation and dialogue and negotiation, we can and must try to calm all of this down, realize, no, this problem is much bigger than that. So in Europe, the same process has been taking place, but it's uneven. It's the proportions of people who have one image of Russia compared to another differ from country to country and place to place and institution to institution. But there has been a real movement now in thinking. And the partnership paradigm, the troubled partnership paradigm for Russia, about Russia now, is a minority view, I would say, across the NATO alliance and even across the European Union.